Okay, before we get started, make sure you're wearing your headphones for maximum audio experience.
Hello, listeners. My name is Sophia.
And my name is El.
And welcome to Rhyme and Reason. In today's episode, we will be going into the old songs that we love from the past, the new songs that we are currently loving, and a little bit of a discussion on the difference between music from then and now.
Okay, but what is music? The definition of music on Merriam-Webster dictionary is: it is the science or art of ordering tones or sounds in succession, in combination, and in temporal relationships to produce a composition having unity and continuity. Music can be vocal, instrumental, or mechanical sounds having rhythm, melody, or harmony. It is difficult to put into words what music is without looking at the dictionary. We know what it is, but we have a difficult time trying to define it by words. But we can simply say that it is something we can definitely feel just by listening to it. A quote by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, an American poet and educator: "Music expresses that which cannot be put into words and that which cannot remain silent." But based on my opinion, music is like an escape for people, especially those who are feeling a bit vulnerable. For example, music can be an escape from reality, or it can be a stress reliever. And for most of us, music is a motivator. So, Sophia, what is music for you?
For me, music goes beyond words in a way that we can feel the artist's emotions through the lyrics combined with the melody and the instruments that we can hear from a song.
So music is a universal language, right? It's like
yes,
we can
correct.
all understand and feel, but it has evolved over the years, and certain aspects of music has been forgotten. For example, compare the rhythm and lyrics of the music by the most famous artists from the early 80s to today, 2021. Take the Beatles' Abbey Road album or Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence album as an example. These are two of my favorite albums from the 60s and 80s. Now compare them to today's most popular albums or songs like Cardi B's famous song WAP and Harry Styles' song Watermelon Sugar. Now, the albums I mentioned are full of stories that you can imagine and sort of understand what the artists are going through, but unlike the songs that were produced before the 2000s, today's songs contain so much profanity and some just don't make sense. John Coltrane, a famous American jazz saxophonist and composer, once said, "My music is the spiritual experience of what I am, my faith, my knowledge, my being." When you begin to see the possibilities of music, your desire to do something really good for people, to help humanity free itself from its hang-ups, I want to speak to their souls. John Coltrane's music gives this romantic yet chill vibe. The way he plays the saxophone is just tremendous, and if you haven't heard any of John Coltrane's work, I urge you to do so. And do let me know what you think about his work in the comments down below. But going back to the topic, can Cardi B's top hit song WAP speak to your soul? Or Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar? What do they tell you? Music should express what we feel, right?
I watched a video from Jubilee's channel on YouTube, if you're familiar. They have open discussions between different occupations or identities of people, and one of the discussions that was brought up in the channel is a discussion between rappers, and they tackled a topic of Cardi B's WAP song and what it meant for other female rappers or rappers in the music industry. And one thing that the female rappers brought up about the song, because there were also male rappers in the video, but the female rappers basically said their opinion about how the song's message applied to them, and for them, they said that it was a way of female empowerment, kind of females owning their bodies. And it's just an interesting thought, because obviously how you value yourself and perceive yourself obviously differs from person to person. And so maybe for some females they find empowerment in that song, some may not. It all comes down to how we perceive music and how we receive music as well. And for Watermelon Sugar, I can't say that I completely connect to the song compared to Harry Styles' other songs like Sign of the Times and Sweet Creature or Two Ghosts. I couldn't say that I connect with Watermelon Sugar as much, since I don't really completely understand the lyrics and explanation behind it. So I guess it all comes down to how music speaks to a person, and how music has definitely evolved from, the more conventional and conservative type to a little bit more explicit in a sense. Don't you agree?
Well, I do, but out of context, I think Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar is about, I don't know, I might be wrong, but maybe it's about milk tea. I get this really suspicious vibe that it's about milk tea, because when you hear the words watermelon sugar, it automatically goes to the first time I drank milk tea, which was, what was the flavor again? Watermelon something, winter melon, but yeah.
Winter melon. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like that.
Oh, what it reminds me now? It's those candies that you, like a lollipop that you dip in like flavored sugar. That's what I thought it was. It's like the sugar that you dip the lollipop into, it's flavored watermelon, so it's called watermelon sugar. I don't know. Maybe I don't.
Well, we could be right, we could be wrong, but David John Matthews, an American songwriter, musician, actor, and label owner, once said, "Good music is good music, and everything else can go to hell." But what is good music? And is there such a thing as bad music? Look, for me, this is based on what we deem as beautiful. Just like in one of our courses, we tackled about the different concepts of art, and beauty was amongst those topics. Beauty is a concept of which each person uniquely possesses. When we say something is beautiful, it all depends on our taste and our concept of what beautiful is. For example, the song WAP by Cardi B may be beautiful to others, but for me it's inappropriate and kids should not be listening to it. But some people find it beautiful and feel comfortable watching and even dancing to its choreography. Now, what do you think? Is there such a thing as good music and bad music?
This has been a long debate between that, because we can consider music as art, like a form of art. And even the word art itself is still being debated on, like what exactly qualifies as art. As Elle mentioned, we're taking up an art appreciation subject this term, and what this allowed us to see is that there are a lot of arguments between what really constitutes as art. And we've also read many in the art industry who have different points of view on what art really is. Some say it should be a conscious effort to express something, while some say it could be anything that we put our mind into, that we can visually or even audibly experience. And so the same goes for music. Is like Elle said, there's beauty. We can't really know what beauty is unless someone points out what is beautiful. And even with that, you can't completely agree that it's beautiful unless you also hold the same appreciation that the person has. So the lifelong quote, "Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder," really holds true, because a lot of the time we can't really dictate what is beautiful and what is not, since it really depends on us and what we perceive as beautiful, whatever that word even means. And so for music, it really depends on how it connects to you and how it speaks to you. I can say that I prefer some songs over other songs, because those songs that I like the most are the ones that make me feel the emotions that I want to feel. And other songs that I don't really like that much don't really impact me a lot, or don't really connect with me. And so their messages and even the melodies itself don't really resonate with me. And so in that sense, no one can really say which is beautiful and which is not. So.
But for you, what are your favorite songs that you're currently listening to?
So in 2018, that's when I had a switch when it comes to the music that I listen to and my music taste. I definitely branched out from more of the pop to... Actually, it was around 2016, I think, where I kind of started branching out to different music, because I was really used to hearing my dad's music at home, which was really a mix of everything. And then 2016, I was into indie music, and then from 2018 till now, I'm transitioning into more of indie rock, or like pop rock, I'd say, and some are still pop songs. So the current songs that I like is, I've been loving the artist Dominic Fike recently, and I like his new album, What Could Possibly Go Wrong. And in that album, I have so many favorites, but the number one that I like from that album is Wurli, Wurli. And then I'm also listening to Saint Motel. I like their song Cold Man, and then 1997. Are you familiar with Saint Motel, or like Dominic
Saint
Fike?
Motel, yes. Dominic Fike, not so much.
Yeah, so I don't know. My childhood exposure to music definitely influenced my taste in music now, because I really don't have a set genre when it comes to my music. It really depends on what phase I am. Even if I'm more into like indie rock right now, or alternative rock, I still have like different, like it branches out to many different things. Like I have Rosalia. Do you know Rosalia?
I'm not sure.
She's a Latina artist. Yeah, I also listen to Spanish songs, and of course, I also have branched out to K-pop. Although at first I was defensive. Like my friends were into K-pop in my grade 11 years till grade 12 years. I was surrounded by friends who like K-pop, and I didn't really understand the hype of it all. And I didn't allow myself to listen to K-pop songs, because I've seen other people and how they act with like different K-pop groups, and I feared that I'll be one of them who will freak out about K-pop, and now I'm one of them. And it's a nice thing to see how music tastes evolve over time. What are the songs that you listen to now that you didn't really expect that you'd get to listen to before?
Well, just like you, I had these same speculations about K-pop, but I don't listen to K-pop as much. I would say I do listen to Blackpink. I mean, come on.
I listen to BTS.
I mean, come on, Jenny Kim, come on. Who doesn't agree with me? Okay. Aside from that, I still love the old music, the 60s to the 90s, one of my favorite albums would still be Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence. And as for the new artists, have you listened to ANJL? I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, ANJL. Like I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that she's half Filipino, maybe. But I'm pretty sure she lives in America. Okay, so the artist ANJL, I'm not sure, but Angel, I think it should be pronounced, but I could be wrong. But I apologize if I pronounce it wrong. But please do correct me if I'm wrong. She has this song called "Love You Through the Phone." And if I'm correct, she made this during quarantine, or maybe slightly earlier than that, because after that, or before that, she has a song called "Quarantine Queen." And, okay, I really like her songs because the beat really gets you moving, and you can, if you listen closely to the lyrics, you can sort of feel what she was going through at the time. So if you guys haven't heard of the artist Angel, ANJL, do listen to her. And I think I'm not sure, but I think she's a new artist. I'm pretty sure. But go and check her out. I'm gonna put the link in the description. I'm pretty sure everybody is familiar with the word Autotune. It is a sort of a pitch correcting software that changed the music industry. Autotune alters the pitch of a singer's voice to make everybody sort of sound perfectly in tune.
Have the perfect pitch.
This is on an article from CNN. They use a song from Cher. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So Cher's producers played the idea of creating an effect on her song, which sort of made it sound like she's part human synthesized, part robotic sound. But I personally haven't heard a lot of music by Cher, if I were being honest. And I think this was early 2000, 2005. Before Autotune, studios would pitch corrections by having the singer repeat a phrase over and over again. Like, they would have 100 takes and then they would patch them all together to make one piece of music. But now with Autotune, you can do all of it with just a press of a button. What's scary about it is, for me, it's like the artists today are sort of working less than the previous generation, which I don't have a problem with that. If you can work easier, you could, but it just gives a different vibe towards music. So, as CNN stated it's a technology that can make bad singers sound good and really bad singers sound like robots. Jay-Z released a song in 2009 and it was titled Death of Autotune. So a lot of artists really don't like Autotune, but artists sort of have a love-hate relationship with Autotune because yes, it does make the job easier, but if you look at it from your perspective, it's like you are giving less effort into your album when you use Autotune, right? So what do you think about Autotune? Is it a good thing for singers or is it bad?
From my knowledge of Autotune, some artists have said that they use Autotune, but just to a certain extent. I recently watched this short video of Charlie Puth trying to give a tutorial on how he records his vocals and kind of elevates them. And in the video, he showed how he corrects the pitch using Autotune. And it doesn't really, make his voice sound very, very different from what he really sounds. But sometimes there are certain points where artists can't hit a certain note, and so that's where Autotune comes in, and it fixes those kind of little nuances in the pitch just to make sure it's consistent with the tone. But there are some artists who will deliberately hide the fact that they use Autotune in their music, and they kind of make a big deal out of trying to cover up that they're really using Autotune. And then there's artists on the complete other side of the spectrum who really use Autotune as part of their music style. And so, in a sense, listeners can still recognize whether something is Autotune or not. And for me, what goes down is, in the end, if the artist does perform live, that's where, there's confirmation whether they used Autotune or not. And admittedly, there are some artists, when they do sing live, you'll really know whether it's Autotune or not. For example, I've listened to Taylor Swift and even Brandon Urie perform live, and they really sound even better than their studio version. And I feel like that's really, really impressive, especially if you're, really known for having perfect pitch and just proving that you can actually hit those notes. Ariana Grande is also one of the top people
definitely
who do that, live and in studio. And there are some people who need more improvement when it comes to their singing, which is not entirely a bad thing. But for me, the only thing that I would say is I hope artists are also open by, being candid and not covering up the fact that they use Autotune. I feel like there's nothing shameful about it. It's kind of accepting that, there's limitations to your voice and that you can still improve on it in the future. That's better than kind of concealing the truth to everyone. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on Autotune.
So do you think the generation before Autotune is better when it comes to music, or after, or during?
For me, I can't really say, but from what I've noticed from songs that I've heard before and even artists now, I would say that there are really, really, really good singers that don't need Autotune and never have needed Autotune. And in a sense, you can really know the extent of someone's talent if you just hear their voice, very raw, stripped down voice. I feel like, it depends on the artist's ability to expand also their vocal range. I know Dua Lipa said I feel like it's her live video in the past year, she said she was working with her vocal coach to help her expand her range, because you've listened to Dua Lipa's songs before, around the New Rules timeline. So her voice is on more of a lower end, but now you can listen to her recent music and you can really see the range, her vocal range has definitely improved. And so I feel like it's not in the sense that their artists are better before than now, because now there's so many iconic singers who can really carry a note. But I guess before, they are really looking for very, very, very talented people, because you can't really fake a good voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think for old songs, they really had to possess that good, kind of appealing voice too.
Yeah, and the thing is, the previous generation of songs, on the time of Prince and Queens and the Beatles, what really stuck out between them and the artists now, I feel like, are the stories that they tell through the songs. Like I mentioned earlier, you can understand the lyrics that these artists are singing. Going back to Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence, the Sound of Silence song is still one of my favorites because not only does it feel like what you're currently feeling now during quarantine, everybody's alone in their homes and it's just the sound of silence. Okay, so do you think the songs today give the same impact as the songs before?
For me, there are a lot of songs that the message still holds true. That's the song "A Warrior is a Child" is still sung today, even though it's been years since it's been released. And so there are certain songs that still resonate even with the present generation. But undeniably, the songs from before, especially, let's focus on the realm of songs, because I feel like love is the most universally topic when it comes to songs. So in the past, I noticed that the love songs are more, how do you say this? The approach is kind of gentle and kind of the lyrics sweep you off your feet, kind of. And there are also progressive storylines in the sense that there's a beginning, middle, and end. Some pop songs I've noticed follow the format of the first verse and then pre-chorus, chorus, and then second verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, and then chorus again. And so it kind of gets repetitive in some parts. But I'd say to contrast that with the songs now, since, our way of living is really different from before, where, for example, when it comes to courting, especially in the Philippines, since courting is really like a long process of trying to not only win over the girl's heart, but also to win over get her family's validation and approval. Now it's definitely changed how we also put ourselves out there and kind of experience, falling in love and all that. So what I've noticed is that the songs right now that are about love tackle more about real life things and kind of even the bad effects of having, like, being in a bad relationship, kind of the things that were taboo to talk about or to even sing about before. A lot of artists now are also being more candid about their past, and a lot of their fans and a lot of people who listen to their music can relate, because the artists have been very open and vulnerable to the pain that they felt. And so in a way, it's kind of a different way of storytelling, because relationships, like having relationships, has been around like ever since time began. And so there's nothing really new to talk about. But now that people want more realness when it comes to artists that they look up to, they can relate more to the songs if it's presented in the way that they've also experienced something. Now artists can take control of the image and the message that they want to put out. Correct me if I'm wrong, I should have fact-checked this, but Billie Eilish kind of wrote songs that were appealing to a certain audience to, get their attention. But once she's found the crowd that she wants to sing to, she can now be more vulnerable when it comes to writing her songs. And so even artists recognize that people appreciate their music more if they are more open to whatever that they're feeling. And yeah, it comes down to how artists now kind of encapsulate their emotions and deliver it in a way that even normal people can relate to and that they can find comfort in. Wow, I talked a lot. Anyway.
Okay, so in that sense, I think it does matter for artists to sort of talk about their feelings, because everybody at some point experiences the same things. Just like the artist I mentioned, ANJL, her songs were created during quarantine, and she sang about the hardships during quarantine and how relationships were during, quarantine, which were usually long distance and everybody's just talking on their phone. Hence the title, Love You Through My Phone, or Love You Through the Phone. And just like the Angels' songs, the older songs, just like the Beatles and, Queens, their lyric resonated with their generation and what they were currently going through. So I guess in a sense, there is a slight difference between the music then and now, but I am still a fan of old music, 60s to 90s and all that. I mean, I do still love the current songs and current artists, but I'm more of an, old soul, as they called it. Okay, so what are your final thoughts about the music then and now?
Music before and the music now, I feel like have the same power as it did, because music really also transcends time itself. And so in any way or shape or form that someone can relate and can also have access to the emotions that the artist is trying to send through their songs, I feel like the music still has that power. And with that being said, I just want to read a short excerpt from The Principles of Art by R.G. Collingwood. This was released in 1938, and this discusses art as expression, and I feel like I wanted to share this because it really ties in with how we relate to music and how we end up appreciating a certain song, let's say. So it's kind of a long read, but I'll try to read as fast as I can. Okay, anyways. If art is not a kind of craft, but the expression of emotion, this distinction between kind of artist and audience disappears, for the artist has an audience only insofar as people hear him expressing himself and understand what they hear him saying. Now, if one person says something by way of expressing what is in his mind, and another hears and understands him, the hearer who understands him has that same thing in his mind. The question whether he would have had it if the first had not spoken need not here be raised. However, it is answered, what has just been said is equally true. So, what here is said of expressing thoughts is equally true of expressing emotions. If a poet expresses, for example, a certain kind of fear, the only hearers who can understand him are those who are capable of experiencing that kind of fear themselves. Hence, when someone reads and understands a poem, he is not merely understanding the poet's expression, he is expressing emotions of his own in the poet's words, which have thus become his own words. As Coleridge puts it, we know a man for a poet by the fact that he makes us poets. We know that he is expressing his emotions by the fact that he is enabling us to express ours. Thus, if art is the activity of expressing emotions, the reader is an artist as well as the writer. There's no distinction of kind between artist and audience. This does not mean that there is no distinction at all. So it basically says that the poet is not singular either in having that emotion or in his power of expressing it. He is singular in his ability to take the initiative in expressing what all feel and all can express. Because the poet is a man who can solve for himself the problem of expressing it, whereas the audience can express it only when the poet has shown them how. When I read that, I really related to what they said, what the author said, because it really depends on the receiver if they have also experienced the same thing and can relate to the emotion of the artist, and that gives the artist the power and the skill to kind of bring out that emotion. Like in the example, the poet allows the audience to express what they feel through his words, and the poet's words have now become their words, their form of also expressing themselves in the way that the audience could never. And so music, in that sense, gives us power to reflect and see ourselves in the artist's words and the lyrics and even the melodies of the song. How about you? What's your insights on music before and then the music now?
Well, to put it bluntly, music then is still better for me, for my personal taste, than the music now. Although I do make music with GarageBand and some electronic instruments, I still prefer the sound of original instruments, just like the sound of an acoustic guitar or the grand piano that you would sing along to. So I still prefer the old music from 60s to 90s over today's music. But don't get me wrong, these artists are creative, but most of them just don't resonate with me as much as the older generation does.
It kind of gives you a sense, the feeling of nostalgia when it comes to like older music.
It does, and it's just calmer to the ears.
It kind of gives you this warm feeling when you listen to like older music. It's somehow comforting, like it's always been there.
Okay, so on that note, I think we learned a lot about music and the history of music and our insights about music then and now. I do hope you liked the episode, and this is Rhyme and Reason, where making sense just makes sense.
Thank you for listening to Rhyme and Reason Podcast. You can support us by subscribing to our podcast on the Anchor app. The support for our podcast will allow us to produce more interesting episodes in the future. If you like that episode, please hit that like and that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave us a comment down below to let us know what you think about the episode. Follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description. See you next time.